Welcome to Infidelity Nest. In today's video, we explore a quiet, tender story about love, memory, and the unspoken connections that shape a life. Birthdays have a way of arriving whether we're ready for them or not. For Margaret, her 55th came like a gentle tide. Steady, expected, yet stirring emotions she couldn't quite name. Gratitude mingled with melancholy. Joy intertwined with a bittersweet awareness of time's relentless passage. She told herself this year would be simple, nothing grand, just a quiet evening with family, perhaps a small cake, and the warmth of familiar voices echoing through the home she'd built with care. But her children, as always, had other plans. By early evening, the modest dining room had transformed into something alive. Laughter spilling from one corner to another, the scent of roast chicken and wine filling the air. The table decorated with flickering candles and bright wrapping paper. Her daughter Claire moved through the room with practiced ease, setting plates and glasses, her husband following behind with bottles of wine. The youngest, Thomas, couldn't make it home from his post overseas, but his smiling face beamed from a laptop on the windowsill, his laughter bridging thousands of miles. And then there was Daniel, her eldest, who had arrived early, hours before anyone else, insisting he wanted to help with preparations. Margaret had smiled at his eagerness, but sensed something beneath the surface. A quiet heaviness in his eyes, as though his visit carried more than the joy of celebration. When the moment came, the candles on her cake glowed softly, their light dancing across familiar faces. The tune of the birthday song filled the air, and Margaret felt that familiar tug in her chest, the one that came whenever love and loss met in the same breath. She closed her eyes, made a wish she would never speak aloud, and blew out the candles in a single steady breath. The room erupted with applause and laughter, and for a few moments, she let the sound wash over her, comforting and real. Yet beneath the laughter lived a quieter ache, a reminder of all the years gone, all the things gained and surrendered along the way. The gifts followed as they always did. Claire handed her a silk wrap, deep emerald green, the kind of color that seemed to hold light inside it. Thomas, ever thoughtful even from afar, had arranged for a framed photograph, the family smiling together on a coastal holiday 2 summers before. Small tokens of love, each one a reminder of connection, of care. Margaret thanked them warmly, her heart full. Yet as she looked around the table, she noticed something small but strange. Daniel sat quietly, watching the exchange with a faint smile. His hands rested on his lap, fingers brushing against something unseen. There was no gift beside his chair, no card waiting to be opened. For a fleeting moment, Margaret wondered if he'd forgotten. But knowing Daniel, that seemed impossible. He was meticulous, sometimes to a fault. She decided to let it go, telling herself there would be time later, perhaps a private moment after everyone left. The evening wound down in the gentle rhythm of family. Claire gathered the dishes, kissing her mother's cheek before heading home. Thomas's face disappeared from the laptop screen with a final cheerful wave. One by one, the house emptied, laughter fading into silence. The quiet that followed felt heavier than before, the kind of silence that hums with memory. Margaret sat for a moment, hands wrapped around a cup of cooling tea, feeling the echo of the night linger in her bones. That was when she realized Daniel was still there. He sat across from her, posture a little too straight, eyes thoughtful. For a while, neither spoke. Then Daniel exhaled, reached beneath the table, and brought out a small wooden box, plain, unadorned, about the size of a book. "Mom," he said softly, setting it on the table between them. "I wanted to give you this privately. It's not because it's secret, but because it's personal, between us." Margaret felt her heartbeat quicken. His tone carried weight, and yet it wasn't fear that stirred in her. It was curiosity. A quiet knowing that whatever was inside that box mattered deeply. "Daniel," she said gently, "you're making me nervous." He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "It's nothing to worry about. It's just something I've been holding on to for a long time, and tonight felt like the right moment." Her fingers brushed the lid. "Should I be worried?" He shook his head. "No, but I think it might surprise you. These are things I've never said aloud, things I've carried for years. I just want you to know how much you've meant to me, really meant to me." Margaret felt her breath catch. Daniel had always been private, even as a child. This sudden openness felt fragile, sacred. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Inside, stacked neatly and bound with a faded ribbon, were dozens of envelopes, each marked with a date. The paper varied, some yellowed and soft with age, others crisp and new. "Letters," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I started writing them when I was 16. At first, they were just a way to untangle things I couldn't say out loud, but over time they became something else, a way to talk to you when I didn't know how." Margaret untied the ribbon with trembling hands. The first envelope, dated nearly 4 decades ago, felt fragile in her grasp. She opened it carefully and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was uncertain, slanted, the letters uneven. "Mom, I don't know how to tell you what I feel. Sometimes I act angry or distant, but you're the only person who makes me feel safe. When you ask about my day, it matters more than you know. I wish I knew how to show you that I care as much as you do." Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the letter to her chest, overwhelmed by the quiet honesty of the words. "You wrote this when you were still a boy," she said softly. Daniel nodded. "That was the first one. I didn't plan to keep writing, but once I started, I couldn't stop. Every time I felt something I couldn't say to your face, I wrote it instead. It became a way of keeping you close." Margaret opened another envelope, this one written during his college years. "Mom, I miss home more than I expected. I miss the sound of your voice when you talk about small things. When I'm struggling, I hear your voice reminding me I'm stronger than I think. I want you to be proud of who I'm becoming." She wiped her eyes. "All these years I thought you were pulling away from me," she whispered. "I thought I'd lost you somehow." "You never lost me," Daniel said gently. "You never failed me, not once. These letters aren't about what you missed. They're about everything you gave me. Every sacrifice, every late night, every moment you put me first. I saw all of it. I just didn't have the words back then." Margaret picked up another, written not long ago. "Mom, I see how tired you are, even when you smile. I wish I could take that weight from you. If I could carry all your worries for even a day, I would. I just want you to be happy, truly happy." Her tears came freely now, the kind that come not from sadness, but from recognition. All those years she'd spent believing she was invisible, unseen in her small acts of care. And yet, he had been watching all along. She looked at Daniel, voice trembling. "I had no idea you saw me so clearly." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "You've always been more than enough, Mom. More than I could ever tell you." There was one last envelope, heavier than the rest, its paper thick and deliberate. She hesitated before opening it. "That one," Daniel said quietly, "is the hardest to read but also the most important." Margaret unfolded it slowly. "Mom, if you're reading this, I've finally found the courage to give you all the others. I've told you how much I love you, but there's more I need to say. You didn't just raise me, you saved me. When Dad left, you became my whole world. You worked until you could barely stand, yet you still smiled, still made time for me. I used to think you were unbreakable, but as I grew older, I realized strength doesn't mean never breaking. It means breaking and still choosing love every single day. You are the most extraordinary person I know. You've taught me that compassion is power, that quiet endurance is its own kind of heroism. I want you to know that you're not just my mother. You're my example of what it means to live with grace. I don't want to spend my life admiring you from afar. I want to be part of your world, not as a child needing guidance, but as someone who can walk beside you. You've carried so much alone. Let me be there now. Let me share your days, your laughter, your burdens. You've given me everything. I want to give something back, not out of duty, but because your happiness matters to me." Margaret lowered the letter slowly, her hands shaking. She looked at her son, really seeing him, not as a boy she'd raised, but as a man standing before her, offering something far greater than a gift. "You've carried these words for so long," she whispered. "Because I needed them to be right," Daniel said. "And I wanted this moment to be about you, not just as a mother, but as you." As Margaret, the silence that followed was thick with emotion. For years, Margaret had measured her worth by what she gave. Her time, her energy, her care. She had defined herself through others, but in that quiet room, her son was offering her something she hadn't felt in years: the permission to simply be seen. She didn't trust her voice, so she nodded, tears slipping freely down her cheeks. Daniel reached across, taking both her hands again. "You don't have to say anything," he said softly. "Just believe it. Believe that you're worthy of being loved. Not for what you do, but for who you are." For a long time, they sat like that, mother and son, hands joined across the table, years about